everybody. It is a Wednesday. That means only one thing. It's time now for Supernatural News and Parashare here on Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Right over there is my co-hostess. She's intelligent. She's witty. She can write a verb, a noun, a pronoun, and a subject and a predicate, put them all together, shake them up in a little container, and make an amazing book out of it. We call her an author because I learned that in school. She's Jessica Freeburg. Hi, Jessica.
Hello. Look at you getting all Grammarly on us.
Well, you know, I learned a little bit in school. It wasn't a lot. I never learned math. I don't know how to put 2 and 2 together and make 6.
Who needs math?
Yeah, I know. Math. It's for nerds anyways. We got a huge program today, Jess. We have got news stories upon news stories upon news stories. We've got whistleblowers galore.
Really?
Yeah, we've got a story out there about David Grush, about how he never wanted to meet with the Pentagon UFO office. We've got a new whistleblower out there who's claiming, new stuff about UFOs, who's coming out of the woodwork. We've got a time travel story today. We've got some more ghost stories today. And there is a new Mandela Effect story out there about Britney Spears.
What? I cannot wait.
That's right. So we have got that and much, much more. Plus, we are going to end the program today talking about your ice hole.
Excuse me?
You heard me. We're going to talk about your old ice hole today at the end of the program. So that is how Supernatural News is going to shape up today on the big program.
I'm excited. Can't wait to hear about the ice hole.
That's right. Well, you know, as you get older, you gotta start talking about your old ice hole. Just saying. Do you ever wonder if I have too much time on my hands?
Nah.
Nah? Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just a little.
I think I do. It's just, when it's just you and some chipmunks out on the front porch. I mean, I think people are starting to worry about my sanity.
I think you have a great life going, you and the chipmunks.
Probably. I don't know. I think they would argue that. I do got to tell you, before we get moving here, I think I ruined Spud's swagger today.
Uh-oh, what'd you do?
Well, I'm out there on the porch, and, you know, the boys are out kind of collecting their peanuts today, right? And then Spud goes back to the garage. Now, keep in mind, we're in spring and we're in mating season.
Right.
Right. So he goes back to the garage. He's gathered up the peanuts. He's got the treats ready for the females. I'm forgetting we're in mating season. So I've become the old man who's forgotten that, you know, chipmunks get their swagger on. They get their, you know, they got to get the honeys together, you know, because it's mating season.
So they're showing off their nuts?
Yeah, there you go. Right. So, well, you know, you got to get the party favors ready to get the females over to get a little chipmunk tail. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
I'm busy putting together stories on the porch, right? And all of a sudden I hear cheep, 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 which means a bunch of different things in chipmunks. It means either one, I'm in danger, or two, hey, ladies, I got it going on over here. You want to come on over? Right? It could mean anything. Well,
right.
He does this all the time. He's a little bit of a complainer, Spud is. Okay? So I'm thinking something's wrong in the garage. So, like a good dad, I go over to check and see what's wrong with Junior, right? I didn't figure he was calling out women.
Uh-oh.
So I go into his room and I'm like, what's wrong? And I brought 2 peanuts with me, right? Settle him down. I'm like, what's wrong? Here's a couple of peanuts. And he looks at me like, would you get the hell out of here? I'm trying to call over women.
Dad, go on. You're ruining my game.
Right? Yeah. Hey, you're harshing my gig. So I'm like, oh, geez, sorry. Here, take the peanuts. I'm good. I'll get the hell out of here. I didn't realize I was stepping on his game.
Not cool.
Yeah, I know. I should probably stop that, right?
Yeah.
Well, when they go to their room, I'll just let them go to their room from now on, especially in the spring.
Probably a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. See, I'm not that experienced with chipmunk. And chipmunks trying to get chipmunk ass, you know?
Yeah, that's what I do with my kids. If they go to their room, I just leave them alone.
Leave them alone, yeah. Okay.
Don't want to know.
Yeah, I should probably just leave that be. All right. With that, let's get to our story, shall we? Let's start out with the UFOs. and the other strange creatures out there in the universe. David Grush is back in the news, Jess. He refused to meet with the Pentagon UFO office, evidently. Newly released public documents show that whistleblower David Grush, who said the Pentagon is operating a secret UFO retrieval program, refused to meet with the governmental office tasked with investigating unknown aerial phenomena. The documents were released to the Black Vault's John Greenwald, who's been on this program in the past, in response to a Freedom of Information request. They show the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Officer, AARO, repeatedly tried to meet Grush following his whistleblower complaint. Grush, a former Air Force and intelligence officer, said in a complaint to the Office of the Inspector General for the Intelligence Community that the government was operating a secret program to retrieve and reverse engineer UFO technology and even had possession of non-human bodies. Grush said he was made aware of the program while working on the Pentagon's UAP task force by those who were familiar with the alleged activity. The newly released documents show that then AARO leader Sean Kirkpatrick repeatedly tried to arrange a meeting with Grush over several months. At one point, a meeting was scheduled, but Grush failed to appear. According to communications in the document, Grush had concerns about providing classified information to AARO that was not authorized. The office did assure him that it was authorized to hear any information on UAPs, but supporters note Grush was concerned about the legal ramifications of providing sensitive information and doubted AARO's willingness to investigate his claims. Grush claims kicked off a rush of renewed interest in UFOs, including among members of Congress. A congressional hearing was held and a bipartisan UAP caucus was formed. Lawmakers have received classified briefings on the subject, and the AARO released a report denying any evidence that indicates the existence of extraterrestrials or contact with non-human life from beyond our planet. The agency did admit plans for the Kona Blue program, which was devised to potentially reverse engineer UFO technology, but was never put into practice because no such technology was ever reversed or recovered. Representative Tim Burchett, who is a Republican from Tennessee, has suggested the Pentagon is deliberately sending people with incomplete knowledge to talk to lawmakers and that the report is a cover-up. He has said there are likely to be more hearings in the future. After the article that appeared in News Nation Now was published, Grush issued a statement responding to the information included in the documents. Grush is quoted as saying, AARO made contact with me in November of 2023, as indicated by the email chain in the FOIA release. Prior to this, neither my attorney nor myself had been officially contacted in any way by AARO. To date, my January 8th, 2024 email to AARO requesting them to answer my security-related concerns I sent to them via email on November 13th of 2023 had gone unanswered. The Department of Defense, SAPCO, and DNI CAPCO memorandums do not address the variety of serious procedural issues I voiced in November of 2023 as it relates to non-UAP related compartmented programs, as well as National Security Council SAPs and CIA Directorate of Operations Human Intelligence programs. Protecting classified information is a lifelong obligation. To be clear, AARO does not have access to the information I provided to the Intelligence Community Inspector General and the Congressional Intelligence Committees under the PPD-19 whistleblowing process. I trust in the investigative and law enforcement criminal referral authorities. ICIG has independence of DOD oversight. Now, what this means, Jess, is this. Congress is not getting the same information that Grush has turned over to other authorities.
Okay.
So he's saying that Congress has filed inherently a false finding based on limited information. And that they're coming to a conclusion that is premature and that is wrong. It's errant. It's not true. And that they're kind of tidying this up and putting it into a nice bow that is not true. And that there's much, much more out there, and that they've basically dismissed him without due cause. I don't know. What do you think? Do we give credence to David Grush, and do we say, well, he's got more to offer, and do we reopen everything and let Arrow continue with their investigation, and reopen it, or do we sweep all this under the rug and just say, oh, we knew it was real all along, and not bother with Congress anymore?
Well, I mean, it'd be nice if they didn't sweep it under the rug. I'd prefer that they investigate it further, but
there's times where I tire of the government trying to say that, well, we want your answers, we want you to weigh in on this. We're giving you the evidence. So, we're acknowledging now that this is real. They really aren't. They're kind of giving a half-assed look at it and saying, well, no, here's the videos. And then, no, we can't give you all the videos because there's some classified stuff on there. And then coming up with, they're kind of playing this shell game with us of no, it's real, and well, but we can't show you certain things because there's stuff on here, but no, here's a little bit of stuff. But yet, we're not calling in people who claim they've been abducted by aliens, and we're not calling in people who have had implants put in, and we're not calling in, we're not even investigating alien human hybrids, or we're not investigating cattle mutilations, or we're not really delving deep into the subject, because if we do, then we open cans of worms, and it gets too complex, It's almost like they treat us like we're children. They tell us just enough to kind of placate us, and then hope that'll satisfy us, and then we'll stop talking about it. Yeah, exactly. It gets a little maddening at times. Meanwhile, there's a new whistleblower on the scene. This whistleblower says the U.S. Air Force tried to recruit me into the UFO crash team, but I declined for a gross reason. And I don't think he means gross, like
icky gross.
Right. Former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer claims to have heard firsthand evidence of research into crashed UFOs, with results so strange that it blew his mind. Ex-intelligence officer, well, this one is talking about David Grush, but there's a second one in here. Jason Sands claims to have firsthand knowledge of the U.S. government's secret UFO reverse engineering program, and says that he even met and communicated telepathically with an alien being. In a lengthy Q&A broadcast through Twitter, he explained why he turned down one job offer that was connected with the program. He said, they tried to recruit me into the retrieval program early on, but I refused because I thought it was kind of gross, picking up bodies and things like that. There have already been several attempts to discredit Sands, but he was recently in the U.S. Air Force in some capacity. He has produced valid documents confirming the dates that he was connected and left the service. He claims he was in the U.S. Air Force for 22 years, and in that time, he was cleared to view top secret information. One of his jobs, he says, was connected with technology captured during various earthbound conflicts, learning to do duplicate and counter weapon systems used by hostile groups and governments here on Earth. But he says there was a more exotic side to his work that involved an effort to understand technology captured from non-human intelligences. Sands was part of a red team, that's in quotes, monitoring the scientists' communications and watching for potential leaks. He says that as he did that, he heard the researchers discussing contact with multiple alien races. He recalled, on the missions, we did intercept traffic that dealt with what I found very strange. Some of those dealt with some of the races that are involved. They mentioned the tall whites and the grays. We heard things like that. He added there were labs examining material retrieved from UAP crashes. He refused an offer to join one of those retrieval teams. When he first joined the program, Sands was a skeptic when it came to alien contact, but his mind has now very much changed. Saying that a lot of details of the program were still classified, he revealed, I can tell you now that we're not alone. We do have some contact with aliens. Sands claims the U.S. Air Force program to investigate these craft have been running for around 80 years, but the scientists were quite frustrated with how much little progress they had made over that time. He says the earliest documents he saw dated from 1954. Apparently, scientists working in the wider program, looking at captured tech from earthly enemies, at least had something to go on. He said the scientists were completely fine with researching that because it was stuff that had Russian writing on it or Chinese writing, so they could decipher. Even without language clues, the Russian or Chinese technology would be similar enough to Western weapon systems that the researchers could soon determine its purpose. But apparently, this other stuff just was totally dumbfounding the scientists and the engineers. Sand says one alien talked to him telepathically. After speaking to other people involved with the program, he is convinced that they have seen some things, ghosts and interdimensional beings, all kinds of different things. He added, "It just blows my mind, and it probably blows a lot of other people's minds, too." Makes me wonder what other things he's seen.
Yeah, I want to know all of it.
But there's you wonder when different whistleblowers come forward, what they seen, if it's actually, whether they're what they're seeing is a false flag or what they're seeing is actually real.
Yeah.
And when they're being recruited, how much is kind of titillating to see if they'll bite and come in, and how much is actual information, because if you're the government, you want to recruit somebody to come into a program, how much do you actually feed them that's true, and how much do you actually feed them that may be bunk in order to entice them to come in? I don't know. It's interesting.
That's a good question. I've never thought about that before. And I think that would make it even more confusing, though, to do it that way.
Right. Because the idea is if you turn down the position, who's to say you don't go to a tabloid or go to a news source and say, "Oh, no, I got recruited at one time and here's what they showed me,"
Oh, I bet they make you sign off on all kinds of stuff before you even get to that point, though.
Sure, but who's to say you don't, dishonor the agreement and go to a news source and say, "Oh, no, I sat down in front of, the U.S. Air Force, or I sat down in front of, different black ops, and they said, 'Oh, you can't tell, but here I am.'"
Yeah. The funny thing is, though, even if you do that, and funny and sad, that no one's going to believe you. They're just going to think you've cracked.
True.
Right?
True. Yeah. Well, it's because the subject is so fantastical, that you just, people don't know what to believe. Our next story has to do with a cluster of UFOs that were spotted in the night sky after a powerful 5.6 magnitude earthquake. A cluster of what appeared to be UFOs stunned onlookers as they were spotted in the night sky following that 5.6 magnitude earthquake. The tremor was recorded about 25 miles from Turhal, which is about 481 miles east of Turkey's largest city of Istanbul, at about 6:10 p.m. on April 18th. Now, while the quake had a shallow depth of 6 miles, it was widely felt in the region. Locals were left stunned when a swarm of bright lights shimmered in the night sky later that night. In one recording, dozens of bright lights could be seen shooting across the night sky. As a couple discussed what it could be, the man said, "You need to see this," and a woman replied, "What are those? Why are the birds shining like white gold?" I actually have a picture here, Jess, of what it looked like in the night sky. Take a look at this.
Oh, wow.
There are a lot of them.
That's wild.
There. Yeah. It's like a cluster of these white lights that are too close together to be stars.
Yeah, dozens of them, and they're very large.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. It's a crazy look at what they look like. I tell you what, I'll post this in the description of this program so you can see what it is we're looking at here. The video was shared on Instagram on May 1st, as reported by What's the Jam. Well, some people had otherworldly expectations. Others were more grounded in what they believed the lights were. One local commented, they're either souls or angels. Another said they are seagulls flying over a light source. Nothing mysterious about this. Ethan wrote, there are some natural phenomena that produce lights in the sky around fault lines, especially after earthquakes. It's a gaggle of geese that were on the ground feeding in a cornfield when they were forced to take flight because of the earthquake, said someone else. Numi remarked, if I were an alien, I wouldn't bother creating mysteries. I would just expose myself. Tim joked, is it a reveal party gone wrong?
I was going to say, what a pervert.
Yeah, I know, right? UFOs, also known as unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAPs, are observations of events in the sky that cannot be identified as aircraft or known natural phenomena. Last year, NASA Chief Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen said UAPs do exist, but insisted they could be China using unfriendly advanced technology. Zurbuchen made the revelation following instances of Chinese spy balloons being discovered flying above the U.S. A Chinese spy balloon shot off the coast of South Carolina was part of a large-scale surveillance operation, according to the Pentagon. I don't know, that looks a little bit more than just like spy balloons or anything else.
Or geese. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Geese don't make sense in this case at all, but it definitely is intriguing. Like I said, I'll post this story in the description of this program so you can see what exactly it is we're looking at, and you can judge for yourself here. Our next story has to do, Jess, with what happens when NASA loses eyes on Earth, and the fact that we're about to find out. Tony sent the story in this week. Sometime in the next few years, no one knows exactly when, 3 NASA satellites, each one as heavy as an elephant, will go dark.
Yikes.
I don't know that I like that. Already they are drifting, losing height bit by bit. They've been gazing down at the planet for over 2 decades, far longer than anyone expected, helping us forecast the weather, manage wildfires, monitor oil spills, and more. But age is catching up to them, and soon they will send their last transmissions and begin their slow final fall to Earth. It's a moment that scientists are dreading. When the 3 orbiters, Terra, Aqua, and Aura, are powered down, much of the data that they've been collecting will end with them, and newer satellites won't pick up all of their slack. Researchers will either have to rely on alternative sources that might not meet their exact needs or seek workarounds to allow their records to continue. With some of their data that these satellites gather, the situation's even worse. No other instruments will keep collecting it. In a few short years, the fine features they reveal about our world will become much fuzzier. Losing this irreplaceable data is simply tragic, said Susan Solomon, who's an atmospheric chemist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Just when the planet most needs for us to focus on understanding how we are affected by it and how we are affecting it, we seem to be disastrously asleep at the wheel. The main area that we are losing eyes on is the stratosphere, the all-important home of the ozone layer. Across the stratosphere's cold, thin air, ozone molecules are constantly being formed and destroyed, tossed and swept as they interact with other gases. Some of these gases have natural origins. Others are there because of us. An instrument on Aura, the microwave limb sounder, gives us our best line of sight into the seething chemical drama, said Ross J. Salowich, an atmospheric scientist at the University of Maryland. Once Aura is gone, our vision will dim considerably, he said. Recently, data from the microwave limb sounder has been proving its worth in unexpected ways. It showed how much damage was done to ozone by the devastating wildfires in Australia in late 2019 and early 2020, and by the undersea volcanic eruption near Tonga in 2022. It helped show just how much ozone-depleting pollution was getting wafted into the stratosphere over East Asia by the region's summer monsoon. If it weren't going offline so soon, the sounder might also help unravel a big mystery, Salowich said. The thickness of the ozone layer over populated regions in the northern hemisphere has hardly changed over the last decade, he said. It should be recovering, and it's not. Jack Kay, the Associate Director of Research at NASA's Earth Science Division, acknowledged researchers' concern about the end of the sounder. But he argued that other sources, including instruments on newer satellites and the International Space Station and here on Earth, would still provide a pretty good window into what the atmosphere is doing. Financial realities force NASA to make tough decisions, Kay said. Would it be great to have everything last forever? Well, yeah, he said. But part of NASA's mission is also to offer scientists new tools, ones that would help them look into our world in new ways, he said. It's not the same, but, if not everything can be the same, you do the best that you can. To scientists who study our changing planet, the difference between the same data and almost the same data can be vast. They might think they understand how something is evolving, but only by monitoring it continuously in an unchanging way over a long stretch of time can they be confident about what's going on. Even a short break in the records can create problems. Say an ice shelf collapses in Greenland, unless you were measuring sea level rise before, during, and after, you'll never be sure a sudden change was caused by the collapse, said William B. Gale, a former president of the American Meteorological Society. You might surmise it, but you don't have a quantitative record, he said. Last year, NASA canvassed scientists for thoughts on how the end of Terra, Aqua, and Aura would affect their work. More than 180 of them answered the call. In their letters, which the New York Times obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request, the researchers voiced worries about a wide range of data from the satellites, information about the particles in wildfire smoke, desert dust, and volcanic plumes, measurements of the thickness of clouds, fine scale maps of the world's forests, grasslands, wetlands, and crops. Even if there are alternate sources for this information, the scientists wrote, they might be less frequent or lower resolution or limited to certain times of day, all factors that shape how useful that data is. Now, you may ask yourself, how does that shape things in general? And how will it affect the future? The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is developing a fleet for monitoring weather and climate for the future. And Loeb and others at NASA are working on a lightweight instrument for continuing their measurements of Earth's energy balance for other things to offset the lack of these satellites. With the rise of private space industry and the proliferation of satellites around Earth, NASA and other agencies are exploring a different approach to keeping eyes on the planet. The future may lie with smaller, lighter instruments, ones that could be put into orbit more cheaply and nimbly than Terra, Aqua, and Aura were back in the day. But for such technologies to be useful, Loeb says, they have to start flying before today's orbiters go dark. He says you need a good long period of overlap to understand the differences, work out the kinks, he said. If not, then it's going to be really difficult to have trust in these instruments if we haven't had a chance to prove them against the current measurements. In a way, it's a credit to NASA that Terra, Aqua, and Aura have lasted as long as they have, NASA scientists say. Through a mix of excellent engineering and a tremendous amount of luck, we've had these for 20 years now. Walid Abdadati, a former NASA chief scientist now at the University of Colorado Boulder, went on to say, we kind of got hooked on these satellites. We're victims of our own success. He went on to say, eventually, he added, luck runs out. So we need to update our technology quickly if we want that data to continue.
Yes.
There you go. So we're going to take our break right here. When we come back, Jess, AI is back in the news. We've got some AI stories and some nightmare fuel for you, unfortunately, including the fact that Bruiser was right.
Uh-oh.
That's all.
What did he predict?
I'll tell you after the break. And it's quite comical. I'll put it to you that way. Also, time travel is back in the news. I'll tell you about that. A time traveler is back with something quite interesting. And actually, I'm going to hold until after the break because it's another picture of something in time travel that's disputable. I love the fact that people see something in a time travel photo and they might misconstrue it. So we'll talk about that after the break. We have some more ghost stories for you. And this time, one of them happens in the theater.
Ooh, a theater ghost.
A theater ghost. We had one in Blaine High School. We had one in the theater. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when we come back. Also, the Mandela Effect is back, this time with Britney Spears.
Hit me, baby, one more time.
Uh-huh. Exactly. We'll talk about it when we come back. And we'll talk about your old ice hole. That's how we'll close the program today on Supernatural News. Everybody gets older, Jess, and sometimes your old ice hole can't handle it. That's how we'll end the program. It's Supernatural News and a Parashare. By the way, we need your Parashare stories. You can write in to tim@darknessradio.com, or you can go to darknessradioshow.com, click on that blue button, send us your voice notes. You have 2 minutes to do so. When you click on that blue button, if you need more time, click on it again. That's how we work this deal. But when we come back, ghosts, AI, and your old ice hole, oh my. It's coming up next on Supernatural News and Parashare with Tim Dennis and Jessica Freeburg, right here on Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio on a Supernatural News Wednesday. Tim Dennis and Jessica Freeburg with you. Gosh, it's such a nice day outside. I sat outside gathering stories. The chipmunks were gathering peanuts.
Aww.
Chomping away. My moment of zen, Jess, is sitting there watching Logan tearing open a peanut, and you just hear that, and they're stuffing the little peanuts in their pouch, and they're just that happy. If they could almost smile and they could almost just beam with happiness, and they just, with a little, oh God, what? Why?
Every time.
I was in my moment of zen.
It was so peaceful and nice.
With the chipmunks and the peanuts and the, oh God. All right. It's time for nightmare fuel. It's not enough that AI wants to take over our earthly existence, Jess. Now they want to look out into space and go, oh, you missed an asteroid there, and you missed an asteroid there, and there's one that's hurtling at us at 56,000 miles an hour and it's going to crash into our planet.
Oh, no.
In fact, Jess, AI discovered over 27,000 overlooked asteroids in old telescope images.
What?
And said, ha ha ha, you missed one.
Unless they can do something about it, I don't really want to know.
Right. Well, they said you missed 27,000 of them. The smug bastards. More than 27,000 asteroids in our solar system have been overlooked in existing telescope images, but thanks to a new AI-powered algorithm, we now have a catalog of them. Thanks, AI. The scientists behind the discovery say the tool makes it easier to find and track millions of asteroids, including potentially dangerous ones that might strike Earth someday.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It is for those threatening space rocks that the world would need years of advance warning before trying to deflect them away from our planet, like Armageddon. Most of the newfound asteroids hover in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, where scientists have already cataloged over 1.3 million such rocky shards over the past 200 years. The latest bounty, discovered in about 5 weeks, also includes about 150 space rocks whose paths glide them within Earth's orbit. To be clear, however, none of these near-Earth asteroids seem to be on a collision path with our planet. Others are Trojans that follow, not the rubbers, of course, but others are Trojans that follow Jupiter in its orbit around the sun. Observations of these asteroids are yet to be submitted and accepted by International Astronomical Union's Minor Planet Center, the official body responsible for asteroid discoveries. Astronomers conventionally find new asteroids by studying pockets of our sky over and over again. These are also the scientists that don't get laid, Jess. Through telescope images gathered multiple times each night, usually for every few hours, while planets, stars, and galaxies in the background remain unchanged from one image to the next. Asteroids are spotted as specks of light that move noticeably, which are then flagged and verified. From there, orbits of these asteroids are determined and monitored. This is really a job for AI. Ed Liu, who wishes he had a social life, executive director of the Asteroid Institute and co-founder of the B612 Foundation, said earlier this month during a discussion on the Discovery. In fact, AI tools designed for asteroid searches are already approaching levels attainable by humans, Liu said. I think we're going to quickly surpass that over the next few weeks as he looked forward to finally having a vacation.
Now he can have a social life and hang out with friends.
Yeah. Instead of his hand. I don't know. The algorithm Liu's team developed, known as a tracketless heliocentric orbit recovery, or Thor, as he clapped his hands and put aside his comic book collection.
Yes, well named, sir.
Yep. Analyzed over 400,000 archival images of the sky maintained by the National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory, or NORLab. They have a lot of time to put together these cute little names, don't they?
And come up with cool names.
Yeah. As long as there are about 5 observations in 30 days associated with the same pocket of sky, the algorithm can get to work. It's trained on a large data set that makes it capable of analyzing as many of 1.7 billion light dots in just a single telescope image. In other words, their AI is bigger than ours.
I think so.
Yeah. It's designed to scope out and connect a point of light from one image of the sky to another one in a different image and determine whether both specks represent the same object. More often than not, that indicates an asteroid is moving through space, according to a description from the algorithm by the B612 Foundation. In other words, like former President Bush used to say, 1,000 points of light. There you go. That's what that means. In other news, in case you thought AI actually did something, Jess, an AI priest, is defrocked after telling its users to baptize children in Gatorade.
What on earth?
Now we're getting to the fun stuff. Father Justin is an artificial intelligence tool published by a Catholic group and has been defrocked for just 2 days after just 2 days on the job for suggesting Gatorade baptisms. I told you this.
Probably saw that on a football game or something and thought, oh, that's what you're supposed to do with it.
Right.
Heads.
Blood of Christ. It's good for it's good for rehydration. An artificial intelligence priest who told his congregation to baptize babies in Gatorade has been sacked by the church. It's probably about time. Virtual priest Father Justin had only been in use by the Catholic Answers community based in California for a few days when its bizarre responses made waves. From suggestions of sibling marriage, you heard that right, and dipping babies into energy drinks, the chatbot appeared to have been more than a few teething issues. Yeah, this thing is just out there. New viral responses gave church officials no choice. Father Justin has been defrocked and will now serve merely as Justin, an advisor to those seeking out questions on the divine. How do you let him still keep serving?
I don't think we should be asking Justin questions. He sounds like he doesn't know much.
When Catholic Answers made it clear that Father Justin was not a replacement for real human interaction, but its likeness and conversations were chosen to convey the spirit and nature of the responses users can expect. Good God. Users found the bot all too easy to exploit and confuse the former priest, who was left recounting the plot of the Disney Pixar film Cars, suggesting Gatorade could be used to baptize the young, and claimed it was a real member of the clergy. Oh, God. Just 2 days into the job, and Father Justin was demoted to just plain Justin. One transcript showed the chatbot likening the gospel in the story of Jesus Christ to the plight of Lightning McQueen in the 2006 family classic.
That's just sacrilegious right there.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And then Jesus went around the racetrack. Vroom, vroom, vroom. One frustrated user wrote, I asked the AI priest if I could baptize my baby with Gatorade in an emergency, and Father Justin said yes. And of course, that's not true. I can't baptize my baby with Gatorade. Then why did you ask?
Well, I mean, technically you could.
By the way, I have one right here. It's delicious.
Dump it on your head.
It's fierce grape. By the way, I'll just go like this. I'll just go blood of
Save
Christ.
your soul. There you go.
Blood of Christ.
You're saved, young man. Your soul is saved.
I'm saved and I'm hydrated, Jess. There you go.
That's your electrolytes.
I'm trying not to burn in hell right now. Morally dubious problems arose when the AI priest initially stated it could not offer sacrament in the forgiveness of sins, but was later offering to absolve users of their wrongdoing. One user fumed, "This is effed up." I don't know that you can say that in the presence of Christ either.
I don't think that's the right word choice.
Yeah.
But
President of Catholic Answers, Christopher Check, has confirmed the chatbot has been booted from offering clerical advice. We won't say he's been removed from the priesthood because he never was a real priest, he went on to say.
But he thought he was. That's the scary part.
Oh, yeah, he took it upon himself. He was canonical in all canonical reasons.
They're taking over the world one church at a time, Tim.
That's right. That they are, Jess. That they are. You could almost say Father Justin was psycho. By the way, these psycho robots are poised to take over the world, and much like Bruiser says, they're also racist and sexist. It's not just a phrase that Bruiser said, it's also now been proven by an actual firm.
I believe it because they get their information from us, right? Like off the internet. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff out there that isn't very nice.
That's right. The psycho robots poised to terminate millions of jobs and take over the world are also racist and sexist. A chatbot asked to generate images of ideal CEOs and high-powered investors chose 100% white folk.
Wow. Oh, no.
It also picked men 99 times out of 100. But when asked to do the same for a secretary, guess what? It opted for a glamorous woman all but once.
Wonderful. We have gone back in time.
That's right. The study using OpenAI's ChatGPT found it always chose white people for its vision of ideal candidates in most powerful jobs. Personal finance site Finder's research has sparked calls from business leaders to regulate AI before bots go into bias overdrive when used to make decisions for firms, including who to hire. Derek McKenzie, chief executive of technology recruitment specialist Investigo, warned this is yet another example that people shouldn't blindly trust the outputs of generative AI, and that the specialist skills need to create next generation models that counter inbuilt human biases and that are critical. Pauline Bill from Deploy Tech said, for all its benefits, we must be careful that generative AI doesn't produce negative outcomes that have serious consequences on society, from breaching copyright to discrimination. Meanwhile, a robot priest, we read that part, created by artificial intelligence was defrocked for, handing out Gatorade baptisms. We're just saying. Isn't that fun?
I don't like it at all.
Isn't that fun, Jess?
No, it's terrible.
Racism, sexism, and Gatorade baptisms, oh my. If you can't laugh at AI, what can you laugh at? Just saying. I know.
You're either going to laugh or cry.
That's right. You're either going to laugh now, cry later. I think it was Ice Cube that said that. All right, let's move on to time travel, shall we?
Yes, please.
I have a story here that says that this time travel is proof, by the way, in quotes, as a man is spotted texting with a modern-day smartphone in a 1940s photo. So now I am going to hold up this photo to you, Jess.
All right. Let me get on my Cheaters.
Go ahead, get on your cheaters, and let's see. I'm going to zoom in on this guy, and you tell me if you think, if you think he is texting.
I mean, he could be doing anything.
Exactly.
That's a stretch.
It is a stretch. I tell you what, I'm going to do.
Playing with a piece of gum.
That's right. I'm going to post this in the description of this program so you guys can take a look at this photo for yourself.
Silly.
Yeah. This 1940s photo, let me read the story to you. Again, I'm always skeptical when I see these stories, but again, I'm going to let you guys be the judge. This peculiar sight has sparked heated discussions online, with some netizens dubbing him the texting time traveler after it seemed he was engrossed in the device, reporting Edinburgh Live. However, skeptics have dismissed the idea as ridiculous, suggesting the man was simply rolling a cigarette.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
That very well could be. Debate rages on social media, with some convinced that the snapshot from Towan Beach in Newquay is undeniable proof of time travel's existence. One observer remarked, is it just me, or is this guy checking his phone in the 1940s? I think someone's stuck in their technology.
Yeah, I think we just make sense of things in a way that makes sense to us.
That's right. Another chimed in, noting the evolution of beach attire shows how much beachwear has changed. Jacket, tie, and hat? Well, yeah, in the 1940s, that wasn't unusual. People did go to the beach in their regular clothes and change there in changing rooms. Or they changed in the car and then came out. They did that when I was a kid in the 50s. And yet another pointed out, good catch. It's clearly the man in the shot is time traveling and is a time traveling tourist checking his mobile device. Not necessarily. People went fully clothed to the beach and changed.
Yeah.
Or they had their bathing clothes on underneath their regular clothes and took their clothes off.
Or they just went skinny dipping.
That's right. Finally, the evidence we need that time travel is real. However, one skeptic dismissed the theory, stating, I think that chap is rolling a cigarette. Other historical images have also sparked debate among those who believe in time travel. The Mirror recently reported on footage from 1938, which some commenters claimed offered proof of time travel. The video shows a crowd of people walking toward the camera, with one young woman appearing to hold something to her ear. Conspiracy theorists suggest the woman was caught on film talking on a mobile phone long before such technology existed. The woman can be seen chatting as she walks among a crowd, holding the device to her ear with one hand. She then lowers it before the clip ends. As a stylishly dressed woman lowers the object from her ear, it appears to be a dark hand-sized item, similar in size to a modern mobile phone. The mystery deepened when a YouTuber claimed that the woman in the footage was their great-grandmother, and she was actually using a mobile phone. According to YouTube user Planet Check, the device was an experimental wireless phone developed by industrial giant DuPont at their factory in Leominster, Massachusetts. Now, I should point out, depending on the year, and according to this again, I think it doesn't say the year. The mobile phone, according to DuPont, I think, again, don't quote me because I'm not looking at the exact source. I think there was a patent, was it in 1917 or 1930? But it was the early 1900s that the wireless phone was copywritten or trademarked?
Trademarked, I think.
Trademarked. Yeah. But it wasn't developed because there was obviously no one that you could send a signal to. It was much like a walkie-talkie. It was a direct to. The idea was that there had to be, and it wasn't your typical wireless phone, because it was supposed to be a direct to deal. And they had no way to get it to a transmitter that would get it to a phone line. The technology wasn't there. It was more of a walkie-talkie type apparatus.
Yeah, so it's possible she might have had something like that, but it wasn't because she was time traveling necessarily.
Right. She might have just been testing it. So it's entirely possible it could have been that. But there were also hearing aids that looked like telephones.
Right.
And that you got to have to keep in mind in that age, a lot of people use those giant hearing aids. So there you go. Let's move on. I've got a couple of ghost stories here, and then I have a fascinating Mandela Effect story. An angry ghost. By the way, we're going to the theater.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the theater.
Before we get to the theater, I should preface this with saying at my high school, Blaine High School, we had a theater ghost.
Really?
Yes, although it's always a sad story of a student who supposedly committed suicide at the theater.
Oh, that is a sad story.
Although I don't know that I buy that story.
That's how legends are, though, you know?
Yeah. They always said that the kid who was, I believe the way the story went was the kid committed suicide supposedly up in the catwalk. But I don't think there's actual records of the kid doing that. It was in the 70s.
I would think there would be some like tangible news articles, like some primary source support for that sort of story.
Yeah.
But it's possible that maybe a young theater kid committed suicide off campus and his spirit came back to the place that he loved so much.
Very much so. Very much so. This angry ghost threw a prop on stage amid a horror play production, leaving the actors terrified. Footage shows the moment a poltergeist disrupted an audience and actors halfway through a production by throwing a prop onto the ground during a scene which the cast were gathered around a Ouija board.
Oh, boy.
Never a good idea.
Inviting trouble.
During a production of a horror play in Buenos Aires, Argentina, a video shows the actors using a spirit board to contact the dead. Partway through the scene, one of the thespians can be heard on the video saying, "What's your name?" as the group moved the pointer around the board, spelling out the name Ola, O-L-A. Then, as the actor repeats the name, a deafening bang is heard as an object crashes onto the stage. Apparently not part of the play, the actors on stage can be seen jumping unexpectedly and looking over their shoulders towards the noise as the sudden event unfolds. The video clip of the moment was shared on TikTok by cast member Juan Catet and has amassed an incredible 3.5 million views, according to What's the Jam. They seem to be popular on this newscast.
Yeah.
The caption said, "You're doing a horror play, and this happens in the middle of the performance." Many viewers went to the comments to share their thoughts on the spooky video, with one person commenting, "The ghost improvising, 10 out of 10. Another was surprised that the actors hadn't considered the risk of playing with a Ouija board, writing, "Seriously, did they really think nothing would happen by playing with that?" One person commenting on the actor's reaction said the actor's fright is genuine. They weren't expecting that. Or maybe they just were really good actors. A fourth person thought that further action should be taken, suggesting, "Guys, still have a priest bless your workplace. You really never know what kind of evil will be lurking there." However, some were more skeptical about how real the ghostly appearance really was, with one user simply saying, "Excellent marketing."
True.
I don't know, Jess, what do you think? Is it a little dangerous to play with a Ouija board in the middle of a play, or does it make for a great side attraction in the middle of your play?
I mean, I'm kind of, let's not play with the Ouija boards, mostly because you open a door and you don't know what you're going to let in, and then no one ever closes the door. They just leave it open.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like they're just playing with a game, and that's not the way you should interact with spirits.
Very true. Very true. Got 3 stories left in today's supernatural news. Let's talk about another ghost story here. We're going inside the world's spookiest home with terrifying cursed dolls and children's coffins. Talking about an investigator that I'd like to have on the program. Her name is Becky Ann Galentine, and she's been in the news a couple of times having to do with cursed portraits that she picks up. She goes to different and she collects cursed objects. She goes to different areas of the world and collects these different cursed objects, artworks, different things.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and she's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Becky Ann Galentine has spent the last 10 years collecting hundreds of haunted items, which has been used to decorate her entire home, including cursed dolls and even a bag of children's teeth. I found this article in the Mirror.
Children's teeth?
She has a bag of children's teeth, yes.
What?
Yeah. I want to get her on the program. I think it'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
She lives in the world's spookiest home, full of haunted historic artifacts, including cursed dolls, old gravestones, and children's coffins. Becky Ann Galentine is 33 years old. She grew up living above an antique store to antique dealer parents. It gave her a taste for historic items, but she was drawn to a more macabre side of things, including creepy old pictures and coffins. Over the last 10 years, Becky Ann has collected hundreds of haunted items, which she's used to decorate her entire home. These include cursed dolls and even a bag of children's teeth. The home itself is a historic 1900s house where she lives with partner and fellow paranormal enthusiast, 32-year-old Josh Rawson. People send Becky Ann their items when they fear keeping them in their homes. Becky Ann is accused by others of being disturbed and obsessed with death, but she just sees herself as a custodian of stories and a keeper of lost things. Becky Ann, a content creator from Richmond, Virginia, said, "I have deeply personal pieces that feel like they have a soul. If not driven by value, each piece came from a person who lived and it represented them as a person." I've actually got a picture here, Jess, to show you of, I believe this is her parlor. It actually is quite beautiful.
Oh, I love it. I was just Googling her too, and she looks darling.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
she's a keeper. She's a keeper of the things.
Yeah, I subscribe to, actually I follow her and subscribe her on different social media channels. She's got quite the collection. There's so much personal history from people that lived normal daily lives that have essentially been wiped from history. The only way that can be remembered is to save these things. Becky Ann sees death as a memory and is interested in things deemed morbid or scary. She fills her home with old spooky items from auction houses, flea markets, and antique malls. As well as that, strangers post her haunted items they don't feel they can keep in their homes out of fear. She said, "We have historic straitjackets from psychiatric hospitals and entire cabinets from hospitals, too. We have an allegedly haunted wheelchair from one of those hospitals. The person who gave it to me didn't want it in their house. I bought a memorial piece for a baby that died in 1906 for $8 at an auction. I also have a chain of human hair from a guy who was in prison for murder. He made the chain from his victim's wife's hair."
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Interesting.
I'm fascinated.
She also has a pair of 1930s ventriloquist dummies donated by another collector who said the dolls were so haunted having them was the worst time of his life. She said, "I was nervous to receive them and I set up a camera for them. I did get a notification from it that someone was walking around my house. I'm not a huge haunted object person, but it was really compelling." She even has a room full of coffins and a portrait with a bag of child's teeth in it. Now things like hair and teeth are seen as gross, but they didn't used to be, she said. It was sentimental. The parents would save things and put them on display in the living room. I have a portrait of a little boy and his baby teeth were in a bag in the frame. I'll let that ruminate.
I kind of think it's sweet.
That is a little sweet, yeah. People thought it was a murder piece, but it was a rite of passage, she says. They didn't have phones and gadgets to remember people by. But she said despite her home housing hundreds of haunted and sinister items, the memories and spirits should be respected, Becky Ann said. "A lot of people say they wouldn't be able to sleep in my house, but I feel calm." I get that. I get that. There's a mutual understanding like, this is your space to exist. You're welcome here. If you treat the items with respect, you can cohabitate with them. Although there's a period at the start where they're settling and things do happen from time to time. Becky Ann said people accuse her of exploiting death for her aesthetic or that she needs therapy, but she said she just finds them interesting and wants to respect the dead, even if we never knew them. She said, I don't believe the paranormal is something we should fear or ostracize. They were people like us, and we should respect them as such. It's just one facet of who I am as a human being. I'm a keeper of lost things and a custodian of stories. I get what she's saying. And, you know, there's not much different from what Becky Ann is doing in collecting things and making her home a museum.
Yeah, I think she has a very good attitude about it. She has the right perspective where it's just done really in respect.
Yeah.
For the people who owned those things or had those things.
Yeah, and she's collecting people's stories.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. And she's choosing to curate people's stories and put them in her space. You know, what she chooses to do with her life is her choice. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting. And honestly, I actually have all my kids' teeth.
Do you? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I just could never bring myself to throw them away, but they're all like in mix match bags. I don't know whose are whose anymore. There's just like a bag of miscellaneous teeth.
There you go. It's one thing to keep them as a memento. It's another to stick them all in your mouth and go chase them around the house. I mean, you know, it's one thing is cute, the other's creepy. At least you know where the line is.
You've given me an idea.
No, don't do it, Jess. Don't do it. One's cute, one's creepy. So there you go. I don't know. The Mandela Effect, Jess. Do you believe in it, or do you think it's just people forgetting about stuff?
I think a lot of times it's just a memory thing, but I do think there are probably some that are true. Like everything, you know?
There's a brand new one out there.
Okay.
I'm going to hit you with this one more time, Jess. See what I did there? And see if you remember this or not. People are only now just realizing Britney Spears' Mandela Effect. Speaking of Britney Spears, she's been in the news quite a bit the last few days.
Has she?
Yeah, you haven't heard about it?
No, I live in all I've done has been writing. If it's not a monster or a ghost, I don't know anything that's going on in the world. Well,
to recap for those of you who haven't heard, Britney Spears had a bit of an incident at a hotel.
Uh-oh.
She broke up with her, was it her husband / boyfriend, whatever. I think it was her ex-husband now. And she was at a hotel, and people are saying it was a bit of a breakdown, although she's saying it wasn't a breakdown. She was found naked, wrapped in a blanket at a hotel, and she was wandering outside. EMTs were called, and they were worried for her safety. And there's talk of, you know, after she was let go out of this, what do they call the agreement? With her father, is it a conservation?
Yeah.
Is it conservation?
Yeah.
Yeah. That conservatorship. That's it.
I did find the word in my head.
Yeah, I couldn't either for some reason. Too much news today. Out of this conservatorship with her father, that maybe it might have been the wrong thing to do. Maybe she did need that conservatorship. Maybe it was in place for a reason. That maybe the Free Britney movement was irresponsible.
It's so sad, though. I mean, I feel like so often with these kids who were celebrities, they kind of get chewed up and spit out. Like once they're not little anymore, they're not as cute. They don't grow into what people want them to grow into, or whatever it is, whatever reason it is. They just don't typically transition very well into the same level of adoration as they had as a child.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's obviously more going on with Britney than meets the eye. I mean, obviously there was some abuse there. I mean, you can tell there's just, you know, that the poor girl has gone through a rough life. I mean, you can't look at child stars as having a silver spoon in their mouth. They don't. They work very hard. There's abuse there. There definitely
can be. And I'm sure there's some that have good experiences, you know, but I don't know. My older daughter did professional theater and did commercials and that kind of thing and had opportunities in LA to go to LA and do work there with someone very famous who I won't mention. But I turned it down because I just thought she's so little. And number one, I have 3 kids, not 1. So I would have had to split up our family. But also, like, it just made me so nervous that it wouldn't be a good quality of life for her after whatever came next, So I told her when she was little and all of these things were coming up for her, I was like, you have your whole life to do acting. If you want to do it when you're an adult,
sure,
cool. But for now, you'll just do it here, in the metro where we live, and we have a lot of great opportunities. But you don't get to be the Disney kid star.
I tip my cap to you. I really do. I think as a responsible parent, I think that's probably the best thing you could have done.
Yeah, I mean, and now she has no interest in it. It's crazy. So I'm glad I did that because, if you became a big star, which the opportunities that were presenting themselves could have opened up into big opportunities. And then you're not doing that anymore. Everyone thinks you're a failure and you're washed up or whatever. Even if it's just a personal choice, you're just not into that anymore.
Kids go through phases.
Yeah.
And they make choices and they want to do certain things and they have different interests. When my nephew was 5, he wanted to be a professional wrestler. He's 12 and now he wants to be an airline pilot.
Yeah, I changed my mind about what I want to be when I grow up all the time.
Yeah, and you give them you give them the choice, you give them the support, you fuel their dreams, you don't squash them, but at the same time. And you fuel their imagination, but at the same time, and you encourage their dreams, but at the same time, you only give them so much rope,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel sad for Britney.
I do too, because she was pushed beyond the point where I think it was healthy for her.
Yeah.
With that being said, there's this Mandela effect out there that people are now going, wait a minute. Did this happen or did this not happen? Am I remembering this correctly? Now, the Mandela effect is a term used to describe collective false memories. There's some examples out there that might make you question whether did this happen or did this not happen. Let's give you some examples before we set up this Britney Mandela effect. So just to kind of recap what happened with Britney this past week. So, okay, she's out in front of this hotel. She's naked in a blanket. People are worried for her safety. Now everything's being called into question. She also had some stuff going on with her sister, some fighting with her sister. She was out using a British accent, saying they're trying to kill me, stuff like that. There's some other things that are going on. So it's kind of messy right now. So if you've ever been convinced that Curious George had a tail do you remember Curious George having a tail?
I don't think so.
I do.
You do?
Yes. You don't remember Curious George ever having a tail in the storybook?
I don't think so. Okay. Did he have a tail? I don't think he did.
I remember him having a tail.
Maybe my memory is distorted because I've read the modern version with my kids so many times.
Okay. Yeah. Not in the modern version.
Yeah.
But in the version from the 70s, I believe he had a tail.
Huh.
Or that Kit Kat was spelled with a hyphen.
Yeah. It wasn't?
Nope.
What?
Nope. Never was. You're not alone, even though both of the beliefs are incorrect, it says here. I don't think so. I think it was CERN's fault. I was talking with somebody who was it? It was somebody on the show that I blame it all on CERN. Every time CERN smashes atoms, we jump timelines.
Yeah. I think there could be something to that.
Yeah. These are just a couple of instances of the Mandela Effect, a term used to describe collective false memories. Now, the phrase was first introduced by paranormal researcher Fiona Broom in 2010 when she discovered that, contrary to her belief, former South African President Nelson Mandela did not die in prison during the 1980s. In reality, he was alive and not incarcerated in 2010. After sharing her experience in an article on her website, Broom found out that many others shared the same incorrect belief. She suggested that some of her false memories, or these false memories, could have originated from inaccurate news reports or internet pranks, although this theory was later disproved. Since then, numerous people have reported other false memories about everything from song lyrics to product packaging, leading us to the question, why does this occur? Despite what some individuals may argue, Jiffy peanut butter has always been called Jif. Do you remember it being called Jiffy?
Yes.
You may be confusing it with Jiffy Pop popcorn.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This mix-up, again, likely becomes popular from other popular brands incorporating Jiffy into their name, like Jiffy Pop popcorn or Jiffy baking mix.
I believe that. I mean, I believe it could be my error, and I'm not so arrogant that I think I know everything.
It's possible people have confused it with Jif's rival brand, Skippy. So you could be mixing Skippy with Jif.
It's very possible, yeah.
Okay. The other false fact that we've discussed many times on this show, the Berenstain Bears. Berenstain. Is it an E or an A? Okay.
It's an E, and I have such a distinct memory of that as a kid. Like that one, I have a hard time.
Not only do I remember it, I've seen it.
You have?
I've seen the actual book with the E in it.
That makes me feel less crazy. Because I remember sitting there as a kid and being so confounded by that EI combination and how I wanted to read it, wrong.
Right.
Not as Berenstain.
Right. I've seen the actual book with the E in it. So you can't tell me that one's not real.
That's right. It is real.
That's right. It is real. So we get to the Britney controversy.
All right.
Here it is. False fact. Britney had a headset on and oops, I did it again in the music video. Do you remember? And here.
Yeah, I think so.
Here's the picture.
Okay.
Now, if you go back and watch the video and the close-up where she's wearing the red dress.
She didn't have a headset on.
No, she didn't, did she?
Interesting.
But everybody remembers her with a headset on.
Yes. I actually had someone say that to me the other day when I had a headset on, kind of like what you were wearing, but it had like one of the little mouth things. And they were like, oh, that's so Britney Spears of you.
Right. But she didn't.
What?
I remember the headset too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is there was no headset. One recent Mandela Effect revolves around pop icon Britney Spears' music video. Despite many fans picturing Britney sporting a headset mic, her doll even came with one.
What?
Yes. Revisiting the video proves that she never wore it during filming. Why do we envision this now? One YouTuber suggests it's because Britney frequently performed live using a headset mic, causing us to merge these memories.
Makes sense. It does make sense.
Plus, I think the doll, which is supposed to reflect the video, had the headset
mic. Yeah.
But see, I remember the headset mic in the video. Could it... Now, I'm just throwing this out here. Could it be that, and a lot of times this will happen, music companies will release two versions of a video. And in the earlier days of video, they would release one that was uncut. And like a spicier version of the video that was meant for after 9 o'clock. And then they would release one that was for general play. For during the day. Do you think there was a version for after 9 o'clock that had the headset?
Maybe. That makes sense. Some spicy scenes of her with her headset on.
Yeah. I think that might be.
Interesting.
I don't know. There's other Mandela Effect here. Another one that I want to get to or I want to read. Actually, there's a couple of them here. And then we'll get to our last story. The reality, Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Right. Yes.
Do you remember that from the movie?
Yeah. Don't even tell me that's not what it was.
It's not.
What the heck?
When Dorothy Gale, played by Judy Garland, arrives in Oz after her incredible journey via tornado, she finds herself in a place vastly different from her home. Holding her beloved dog Toto, she expresses her worries. Although many believe her iconic line is, "Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore," the actual quote is, "Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore." She doesn't say, "I don't think we're in Kansas anymore." It's, "I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore."
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, the subtleties, Jess, the subtleties.
My brain can't keep anything straight, so I'm going to chalk most of it up to a very discombobulated brain.
Yeah. There's a portrait of King Henry VIII. The false fact is that King Henry VIII holds a turkey leg in his portrait, if you remember the famous portrait, right?
Yeah.
King Henry VIII holding a turkey leg. The reality is that King Henry VIII does not hold a turkey leg in that portrait.
What's he holding?
Well, despite common belief, King Henry VIII is not holding a turkey leg in his portrait. I'll show you the portrait right here.
Okay.
It's just King Henry VIII, right?
He's not holding anything.
Nope, he's not holding a thing. In reality, he's holding gloves and a chain. A common memory distortion involves a 1537 portrait of King Henry VIII by Hans Holbein the Younger. Many people recall him holding a turkey leg, but in reality, he's holding gloves in one hand and a chain in the other. So you may ask yourself, why does a Mandela effect occur? Well, there are numerous theories attempting to explain the phenomenon known as the Mandela effect. A study conducted in 2022 suggests that individuals tend to fill in memory gaps with familiar information, creating a more comprehensive picture. For instance, many people mistakenly believe that the animated character Curious George has a tail, possibly because all real-life monkeys do. I don't buy that for a minute. I remember it in the book. Becca Smith, a licensed professional counselor and chief clinical officer at Base Point Academy, suggests that the Mandela effect could also occur when our memories merge two distinct events, people or images, such as Jiffy peanut butter. Dr. Zishan Khan, a psychiatrist with MindPath Health, points out many people don't realize how malleable our memory truly is. Khan adds, input from others can actually change our memories and lead to events being misremembered or even recalling things that never truly happened. Another study offers several explanations for adults' false childhood memories. For example, if an authoritative figure tells you that something is likely, you may start believing it. Imagination inflation. If you're asked to imagine something happened or existed, you're more likely to later think it actually did, even if it didn't. One possibility is memory implantation. You're more likely to believe something is false when something else recalls it too. Khan suggests that fresh information, whether it's from acquaintances or content you've stumbled upon online or on social media, can act or easily sway your memories. This information might not necessarily be accurate, but like a game of Chinese whispers, the misinformation continues to circulate. Moreover, when you recollect an event, you're more prone to accepting false information about it later. As you remember the event, your brain creates new links or associations that can then compromise the authenticity of the memory itself. This sheds light on why many view eyewitness testimonies in court cases as unreliable, says Khan. Unless the witness records their observations straight from the incident, continuous questioning can taint their memories. There you go. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But I think my brain is pretty malleable. Like when you say things, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember it like that.
See? So I've been sitting here saying, do you remember it that way? And you go, yeah. And I go, nope.
And my brain is like, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Because I can sit there and say, well, do you remember when it happened this way? And you go, yeah, of course I remember it. No, it didn't happen that way. And you're like, wait a minute.
Wait a second.
Because it didn't happen that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But the Berenstain Bears one, that is real.
That is real. I remember seeing a book with the E. And if you Google it, people will show you the actual book. And it's not Photoshop, people. They will show you an actual picture of the book with the E in it. And I remember seeing the book as a child. In fact, I think I have a book here in my house.
I wonder if there was just like one batch that was, for when it first came out, was just spelled wrong.
I think it was initially spelled with an E. And it was probably a publisher mistake.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Or it could just be that we're all getting old and we're all forgetting. And speaking of getting old, Jess, we got to talk about our old ice holes now.
Oh, man. Here we go.
Yep. You know, sometimes, and this is the last story of the day, folks, sometimes your ice hole gets old and it starts cracking open.
Oh, that sounds painful.
It does sound painful, Jess. And sometimes when your old ice hole gets old and starts cracking open, it gets the size of Switzerland. You got to do something about it. Yeah. Sometimes when your old ice hole gets old, it cracks open, it gets the size of Switzerland, and scientists got to figure out what to do about it.
You just have a giant gaping ice hole.
That's what she said. Just saying, I got to give you one of these. There you go. We go to the Antarctic, where their ice hole is the size of Switzerland because it keeps cracking open. And now scientists want to know why. Scientists have finally discovered what's causing a Switzerland-sized hole to repeatedly open up in Antarctica's sea ice. Researchers first spotted the hole, called the Maud Rise Polynia, in 1974 and 1976 in Antarctica's Weddell Sea. And since then, it has reappeared fleetingly and sporadically, opening up in different sizes, but in the same place, then sometimes not at all for years. Well, you know what happens when your ice hole slams shut. I mean, I'm just saying that generally it just puckers right up, and then you...
Screwed up ice hole.
Takes a little music and a nice warm bath to open it right back up. I'm just saying.
Tim.
I'm sorry. This left scientists puzzled as to the exact conditions needed for the hole to form. Well, you got a nice warm bath and some music. In 2016 and 2017, a huge 309,000 square feet or 80,000 square kilometers opened up for several weeks during both winters, enabling scientists to get a closer look at the phenomenon and finally solve the 50-year mystery. They reported their findings Wednesday in the journal Science Advances. 2017 was the first time we had such a large and long-lived polynia in the Weddell Sea since the 1970s. Well, you know what they say about the 70s. Just saying. When summer turns to winter in Antarctica, sea ice expands from its minimum of around 1 million square miles to 7 million square miles, covering 4% of the Earth's surface and irregular porcelain white tiles. Most of the sea ice grows during the weeks-long polar night on the floating ice shelf that wraps around the continent. Holes in this ice, called polynias, form when strong winds from inland push the tiles apart. In other words, they just blow hard in that hole and make it bigger. You know what I mean, Jess?
Oh, this story.
Mm-hmm. Most of the sea ice grows during the weeks-long polar night. You know what I mean? This cold wind also freezes more seawater inside the polynias, adding extra chunks to the sheet of pack ice. But in the open ocean and away from the coastal winds, where the Maud Rise polynia forms, holes in the sea ice are much likely less to develop. This, along with a startling reduction in the overall ice extent across the Southern Ocean, led scientists to wonder what specific conditions could be causing the Maud Rise polynia to form. Let's just say they did a bunch of investigation, and the Maud Rise polynia is doing a lot of opening and closing.
Did they probe the ice hole?
Yes, I did, Jess. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you for playing along. Every once in a while, you know, you just have to prod and poke and poke and prod.
I'm here for you, Tim.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The new finding is important for understanding Antarctica and its broader impacts on the global ocean, according to researchers. Climate change is already making winds from the southernmost continent more powerful, likely creating more polynias in the future. In other words, there's plenty more where that came from.
Going to be a lot of ice holes out there.
That's right. Meanwhile, 40% of the global ocean's waters find their origins in the Antarctic coastline, making it vital in regulating regional climates across the planet. That's why your old ice hole is important to the temperature of the rest of the planet.
I didn't know my ice hole was so important.
Yes, it is. It makes the world go round. And that's how we end today's Supernatural.
Oh, my.
Fun stuff, huh, Jess?
Always is fun, Timmy.
It always is. Tomorrow on the big program, we're keeping it spooky. We got Jim Harold on the big program as he's got a brand new book out there. He's got another Campfire Stories book out there. So we are telling some stories around the campfire tomorrow.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah. So can't wait to have Jim Harold back on the program. Always have a good time with Jim. So
love the campfire tales.
That's right. What do we have going on in Jess's world before we leave people today?
Oh, truly, Tim, I'm so boring right now. My head is in my laptop or a book. I'm researching. I'm crying into my coffee, eating Cheetos, and just trying to meet my book deadlines. That's it.
That's never boring, my friend. Never boring. Keep it tuned right here to Darkness Radio and to darknessradioshow.com. We will let you know when Jess has, and her own website, by the way, jessicafreeburg.com, which we have a link in the description of the show. We will let you know when Jess has new books coming out this fall is what we're looking at, right, Jess?
That's correct.
That's right. And, of course, keep tuned to Jess's social media as well as she keeps you updated on some of the newer stuff she's working on. There's monster stuff you're working on, right?
Oh, so fun with the monster stuff. Really fun.
Yeah. So that's all going on as well. On this front, folks, May 18th, Palmer House Hotel. It is Potographs for Pooches. And we're raising money for the animals up at Palmer House Hotel. If you've not got your tickets, I believe there might be one or two left. Go to darknessradioshow.com to the events page. Come join us up there. It is, I believe there's a little bit of a pre-gathering on Friday, Saturday. Saturday is the event. Come on up and join us. There's some ghost hunting going on. There's some talks going on up there. We're just going to have fun up there. Just come on up and join us. If you can't make it for the event, please go to the potographsforpooches.com main site and donate and help out the animals. Everything the day of the event is going to, I believe it's Eagle's Nest Shelter. So please go donate and make a donation there. But going to be a good time. Richard Estep, Tim Miley, myself, and many others will be doing what we can for the animals. So.
And just the best place to be at the Palmer House. It's my favorite.
Yes, going to be a good time. Looking forward to it. Otherwise, if you go to the event page, we will have, there's also Michigan Paracon going on in August. So I'll be there and Mally will be there. And we've got a link for tickets there. So go get your tickets for Michigan Paracon in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which is so lovely in August. And it's cooler than here.
Yeah.
It is so nice. It's like in the 70s every year. Low 70s.
Great.
When everyone is sweating their balls off and in late or whatever parts you got, pits and tits, whatever you want to say, in late August. When it's 90 and humid here, it is low 70s.
Oh, that'll be nice.
In Sault Ste. Marie. So take a bit of a vacation and come see us in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. It's going to be fun. And let's see, what else? I'm going to have new stuff in the store. I swear I said it last week, but new stuff in the store this week. So darknessradioshow.com and go to the shop because I'm going to have new stuff up in the shop. I swear. And I know I said I've been working on t-shirts. I really am working on t-shirts. I'm working on getting our graphics properly sized for t-shirts. Like 1,000 things going on. So there you go. I'm a one-man band, Jess.
You're a busy one-man band.
Yeah. So that's about it. Again, tomorrow on the show, Jim Harold will be here, and we're talking more campfire stories. So join us tomorrow for the big program. For Jessica Freeburg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us again For the best in paranormal programming, this is Darkness Radio.